The resignation of the head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and his deputy is, at this point, a necessary condition for Poland to save face on the international stage. The aftermath of the mistakes made by the Polish Foreign Ministry politicians discredits Poland as a country concerned with geopolitical stability in Europe. Sikorski and Bosacki turned a serious matter, the Russian drone provocation, against Poland with their statements, thus turning the position into a losing one. A wise policy on the part of Poland, after what happened on September the 9th, could have guaranteed at least a step back for Russian provocations. However, several pointless mistakes reared their head. It was not a drone but a malfunctioning Polish rocket that destroyed the house in Wyrytki. The Russians couldn't have counted on a better opportunity. Last week we heard baseless accusations of alleged violations of Polish airspace by our drones. There was no indication that these drones were of Russian origin. Russia is using the opportunity to present Poland as a disinformer and provocateur, which is clearly against Poland's national interests. One of Russia's actions is to portray Polish membership in NATO as being questionably justified, trying to use falsehoods and lies to persuade the others to accept its diagnosis of the Russian threat. And how does Bosacki's boss, Sikorski, react to this? At times, nervously. This entire discussion is disgraceful. It has only been a few days since the incident and you're already demanding hard evidence and deep analyses. And then he pretends that there is no issue, thus fueling Russian propaganda narratives. The opposition media have their own opinion on this matter. They are unnecessarily amplifying this story. The Polish foreign minister of all people should know that you don't fix a mistake with another mistake. How can something that is public information be kept quiet? My friends in many government offices and in the army say, to say this is a catastrophe is a gross understatement. The situation requires a response. If the head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs does not see this, he should face the same consequences as his subordinate. The ball is in Tusk's court, and for him, it is a politically tempting opportunity. He is getting rid of his competitors from inside his own party. Will he decide to do so? Radosław Sikorski is on very shaky ground. Tusk has in the past got rid of potential intra-party competition in similar ways. But let's move away from the internal conflict within the civic platform because this is about Poland's national security. An amateurish diplomatic approach or a single ill-considered decision could result in a conflict and an avalanche of events with no way out. Take a look. The Russians are analyzing every sentence. This is Tusk, yesterday at 11 a.m. Polish time. We have not confirmed any cases of armed drones that could have caused major destruction. And this is 5 p.m. Polish time on the same day, at New York, at the United Nations Assembly. The Polish Prime Minister admitted that none of the drones contained explosives. To sum up, we have a government that engages in cheap marketing with an evacuation backpack. And here you need to play a sophisticated game with a cool head at the highest level. Why? Let's return to the UN forum once again and take a close look at this figure. As we have already mentioned, Dmitry Polyansky is the Kremlin's man responsible for the attempted reset of Polish-Russian relations years ago. As Deputy Ambassador to Poland, he maintained regular contact with Sikorski's Ministry of Foreign Affairs at the time. He is not a diplomat. In this case, he's a puppet master. He has extensive knowledge about Radosław Sikorski and Donald Tusk. He was sent to remind them, we have this information, beware. In this context, Radosław Sikorski's threats that we will shoot down aircraft are a farce. Because this is not about political posturing. You can see this in the documentary series entitled Reset and read about it in the book Zgoda by Sławomir Sęckiewicz and Michał Rachon. This is part of a long-running geopolitical project by the Russian Federation. Everything the Russians have been doing for years is the same game. A game that involves rebuilding something roughly geopolitically equivalent to the USSR and dismantling the Polish state.
NATO warns Russia against further escalation and announces that it will defend its territory in the event of similar violations of its borders, such as the one that occurred a few days ago in Estonian airspace. The Kremlin's increasingly aggressive stance towards the West is the main topic of discussion, both at the alliance's headquarters and at the UN summit in New York. Russia strongly denies the accusations made by its neighbors and their NATO allies. This is NATO's first observation flight as part of the Eastern Sentry mission, launched by the alliance after the Russian drone attack on Polish territory. One of the most important elements of the expanded early warning system is in the air, the E-3A aircraft, monitoring the airspace on the eastern flank. It can see far into the territory of Belarus and Russia and detect incoming missiles, drones, or aircraft well in advance.
We're here to gather as much information as possible about possible threats to the airspace of the alliance and then report it off to our allies so that they can react to every possible threat.
These missions are nothing new in technical terms. NATO has been monitoring the situation on its eastern flank since the start of the full-scale war in Ukraine. What is changing now, however, is the alliance's rhetoric. It is about defending its own territory, and as recent days have shown, everyone is in agreement and ready to do so.
The decisions on whether to engage intruding aircraft, such as firing upon them, are of course taken in real time, are always based on available intelligence regarding the threat posed by the aircraft.
At Estonia's request, NATO has launched consultations on airspace operations. Representatives of the alliance countries have clearly stated that they are ready to respond with fire to any violation by Russian aircraft. However, this leads to a significant risk of open war.
And to those nations and to all NATO allies, I say, the United Kingdom stands in full solidarity with you at this time and always. And to President Putin, I say, your reckless actions risk a direct armed confrontation between NATO and Russia. Our alliance is defensive, but be under no illusion. We stand ready to take all steps necessary to defend NATO's skies and NATO's territory. We are vigilant. We are resolute.
The problem is that, according to analysts, Putin will not turn back from his chosen path, and such violations will only increase. It is about testing NATO's warning systems, response times, and response methods. It is nothing more than reconnaissance to determine the enemy's positions. The Institute for Eastern Studies warns that Putin is increasing military reserves by expanding the army. His actions do not so much indicate an intention to suspend hostilities in Ukraine as preparations for a large-scale conflict.
We see a pattern. Russia is testing European borders, probing our resolve, undermining the security of the whole of Europe. Russia will continue to provoke as long as we allow it.
In addition, we may witness strange events in Europe, such as yesterday afternoon, when 4 large surveillance drones appeared simultaneously over Copenhagen airport, forcing authorities to suspend air traffic over the Danish capital. After several dozen minutes, the drones disappeared without a trace. Under no circumstances can I rule out the possibility that Russia is behind this. We have seen drones over Poland that should not have been there. We have seen actions in Romania. We have seen violations of Estonian airspace. We have seen cyber attacks on European airports last weekend. And now there were drones in Denmark. And it seems that there were also drones in Oslo, Norway. So in this regard, I can only say that this is, in my view, a serious attack on Danish critical infrastructure. This does not necessarily mean that the Russians are behind the drone flights over the Danish airport, but it does not mean that they are not. And this is the greatest threat to Europe. Sabotage is the Kremlin's favorite tactic for causing chaos and internal divisions, and everything indicates that Russia's sabotage operation is gaining momentum.
This is an opportunity to present the Polish perspective to other countries. During the 80th General Assembly of the United Nations, President Karol Nawrocki met United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and Annalena Baerbock, President of the Assembly. The Polish president also discussed the situation in our region with the presidents of Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia. Close Baltic-Polish cooperation is essential for the security of NATO's eastern flank. Baltic states and Poland take seriously recent incursions by Russia into Polish and Estonian airspace, and we work together to strengthen our defence. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania and Poland take seriously Russia's recent incursions into Estonian and Polish airspace. We work closely to strengthen our defence and NATO's eastern flank. The diplomacy that the President is conducting during the UN General Assembly is particularly important from the point of view of our security. It is very important to convey key information about how we view security policy and who threatens our security to the United Nations Forum, especially to reach countries that are hesitant, countries of the global south that have a different perspective from ours when it comes to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. That is why getting our message across to the rest of the world is the most important challenge facing the Polish president. This is a crucial task. It is perhaps the most important diplomatic task facing a Polish statesman this century. Today, Polish President Karol Nawrocki was scheduled to speak at the General Assembly at the United Nations. Before that, however, Nawrocki spoke to Fox Business viewers about Russia's regular provocations against Poland. This is not the first action of this type. Our eastern border is under pressure from migrants, so we are in a state of hybrid warfare. The Baltic Sea, which connects several countries in the region, is a place where Russian provocations are taking place. Now, airspace has been violated. So we can see that this is a regular testing of the defence capabilities of Poland and the entire North Atlantic Alliance. Apart from security issues, the President's visit across the ocean is also an opportunity to encourage American giants to invest in Poland. Polish President Karol Nawrocki talked about this as well as cybersecurity and artificial intelligence with Ruth Porat, President and Chief Investment Officer of Alphabet and Google. The First Lady met Polish businesswomen, representatives of the Polish diaspora. Their club, Beyond, was founded on the initiative of Polish community leaders who wanted to promote Polish culture, language and traditions while strengthening the position of women in the emigrant community. You are very brave to run your businesses here across the pond, far from Poland, but still with Poland in your heart. However, once again, the presidential couple's trip is not only about scheduled meetings, but also spontaneous ones. High school students from Nowy Dwór Gdański, during a school trip to New York, were not only able to admire the city's symbolic places, they also met the Polish First Lady, Marta Nawrocka.
Flash floods and landslides have hit several regions in northern Italy, including the areas around Milan and Como in Lombardy. Heavy rains have also caused flooding in southern France and Catalonia. Heavy rains caused severe flooding in northern Italy. Footage released by the fire department shows firefighters wading through floodwaters to evacuate residents of KB8 and other parts of Lombardy amid submerged vehicles and fallen trees. Footage broadcast by RAI News shows flooded streets in Liguria, Piedmont, and Lombardy, especially on the outskirts of Milan. According to La Repubblica, the center of Como is underwater. In southern France, the worst situation is in Marseille and Toulon. Residents are assessing the damage after violent storms hit the Bouches-du-Rhône and Var departments. Significant damage has been reported in the Marseille area, in areas that were already affected by a devastating fire this summer. In the Estac district, mudslides flowed into the streets, flooding the ground floors of houses, and cars were flooded or swept away by the rushing current.